But one of the shocking things that has happened this morning is that a Hamufu is refuting the incident that had happened in a Hamufu 2 weeks ago that had the women in a Hamufu protesting for an entire week. And this morning we're hearing that these incidents never happened. It seems like I'm in a dream because I feel like someone pinched me, you know. And this is very surprising and very worrisome because incident like this had happened in Ebonyi State, if you can remember. And a community in Ebonyi State was badly hit by these headsmen and, you know, whoever it is that's posing to do this thing. It happened in Ebonyi State. It was brutal. It was reckless. The community members had them recorded. And the community members told us that the people who had attacked them had warned them to not record what had happened to them, and that if they saw the documentation on the internet, that they would make a return. Now, let me tell you that these people still went ahead and posted the documentation, the media documentation that they were able to get from what had happened to them. And like a movie, it was debunked. The state government, that is the government of Francis Nwifuru, came out and wrote a press statement telling Nigerians that what had happened in that community in Ebonyi State was something that the community members had done to themselves, and that it had nothing to do with herdsmen, it had nothing to do with bandits or any form of foreign attack. And now it has happened in Enugu, and we hear that it never happened. I don't know what's going on. I don't know if the people have now decided to fight themselves and then come out and cry wolf, or something is going on. I'm not able to wrap my head around it just yet. But if you can understand it, you can join us live on YouTube at High Voltage News this morning. Please like, subscribe, and share. And you can also call live into the studio to share your thoughts and contributions and analysis on the stories we are reviewing this morning. Right? The numbers to call, text, or WhatsApp is 0706 048 5853. You can also call 0915 570 8347. Okay, so let's just read a few headlines before I have my guest tell you what he finds interesting this morning. From the Daily Post, Ogun monarchs call for government intervention as land grabbers allegedly invade community. Speaking of Rivers State, the crisis in Rivers continues as a critic. During that speech, Mr. Dele Momodu said, he also mentioned that the only living politician in Nigeria right now who is not afraid of the president or scared of the president happens to be Atiku Abubakar. And then he gave some instances as to why that is true. Right. If you know some Nigerian politics, maybe he has something. Maybe there's something there. He did say a lot. And now we case people have come to criticize him, to ask him to criticize with sense, you know, do it with some sense. All right. Let's still tell you that the youth copper who had called out President Bola Tinubu and calling his presidency the worst that Nigeria has ever experienced, has been hounded by NYSC officials and top government officials. They're looking for her everywhere. She's getting threats and she's getting harassed from different corners, different angles. And it is in a conversation like this where we've seen Nigerians on the internet arguing why we do not require 24-hour electricity, asking why youth coppers would need to buy 1 crate of egg to keep in their homes to consume. We're beginning to question why we deserve to live. We're beginning to question if we even deserve to have a good life. And these conversations are happening, and Nigerians are wondering if we've gotten to the stage where we're not allowed to speak on what's happening anymore, because this woman, this young lady who has just recently gone into the NYSC camp, is coming out to explain her experiences and saying that this is not it, this is not worth it, this is not okay, we can't feed, you're paying 33,000, it doesn't make sense. And Nigeria, some part of Nigeria is coming for her and asking for her head. And we're wondering when we got to this level of shutting down and silencing, whereby we can't even talk about it, even though it seems like things are okay by the books, according to the books, according to what's been released, the National Bureau of Statistics, the numbers that are coming out every day, numbers upon numbers, trillions upon trillions being mentioned around every day. The lived experience of the Nigerian people seems to be quite different from what is being said. And then, God forbid, said Nigerians decide to say something about their situation. Enugu people are still trying to grapple with the story that made headlines yesterday about Keke, that's the tricycle bikes, leaving the transportation system in Enugu, leaving it only for the CNG buses. This particular headline has come under so many scrutiny. A lot of people are wondering if that decision was clearly diagnosed, dissected before it was taken. And if it was taken, what are the remedies? Or it's just CNG buses and no other options? What is the plan? What about options? What about Nigerians actually having options? That conversation, these things we will still hit deeply much later on the program this morning. Let's also read you out what's going on at the Punch News this morning. Look at this one. It says, how subsidy removal and tension worsened Niger's fuel scarcity. Okay, so let's take that again. Turns out the subsidy removal that Nigeria had embarked on 2 years ago is affecting Niger Republic very badly at this time. You will get to hear more details on that much later. Governors lobby President Tinubu to block LG direct payment. We saw the actions of the governors when the federal government had granted autonomy to the local government. And so far, they haven't seemed to come to an understanding. So even now, the governors are still very much interested in the local government allocation. What are they doing with it, you might ask? Why do they need access to these monies meant for their local governments? I think this is where I would bring the doc in. Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
Okay, so you've made some predictions on this program before, and I'm sad that some of them are coming through. I'm sad to be the one to tell you that some of the things you've said are true, especially this local government conversation. They have gone to block the president at the IFTA break-in, and they've gone to talk to him. And from insider information, it seems the president has listened or will listen. Why do you think that they are very, very adamantly not wanting the local government system in Nigeria to take off?
Well, you see, they're all politicians, and you ask yourself, the local government chairman, how did they come about? Was it an autochthonous process, or they were handpicked by the governors?
Oh my goodness!
The sad reality is that our governors actually handpick local government chairman. It's not specific to any state. That has been the practice all around. And if you are a politician and you know the practicality of having council chairman by your at your beck and call, it's as good as having your henchmen at the grassroots. So it builds a lot of political capital for the state chief executive. So they don't play with whoever is going to be the local government chairman. So it's a kind of rub my back and rub your back. I put you there, and you're going to kowtow to any policy I bring out. So
this is my confusion. If they handpicked these guys, right? Doesn't it mean that the allocations can get to the local government and then they do what they want as the governors? But I'm really curious as to why they are pushing the federal government to make it legal, so to say, that the money has to go through them. That's what I'm wondering.
Used to have the JAC, Joint Accounts, Joint Local
Government
Account Committee,
yes,
where the local government funds come into them. From there, they are dispersed to various local governments. But the reality of our politics is that those local government funds with the state of our economy and all that, over the years, our governors have been dipping surreptitiously, not openly, their hands into the local government funds. That's the reality. At times, they set the policy direction of what the local governments are supposed to do. I mean, the state government a state governor wants to do a water project. He coerces all the local government chairmen to buy into that project with local government funds.
With local government funds.
So it's should I say it's a bad habit that is difficult to win, even with the Supreme Court's judgment and with the kind of electoral institutions. Who are those that get the local government chairman elected? State independent electoral commissions, which are basically appendages of most state chief executives, because in law they say circumstantial evidence, and at least the circumstantial evidence, every time the state's independent electoral commission conducts election, whichever party that's in control of that state wins the landslide in every state.
Of course, we saw that in the last local government elections. They were winning.
I mean, something is amiss with
one party was clearing all 30-something local government in their state. They all did that in almost all the states across the country. It was clear to see.
That means something is amiss with our electoral process, especially at the local government level. And these are things that are being exploited by the state chief executives. I mean, if I'm a state chief executive and with these hard times, and I can see how I can maneuver some local government funds they'll tell you for developmental projects or whatever, but you also rough the local government chairman, should I say, they're also chief executives. They should also be able to set up their own policy directives. But most of the time, they just follow the body language of whoever is the governor. Except some extraordinarily, should I say, extraordinarily gifted local government chairmen who find a way and still manage to, put up some projects at least. I'm lucky to know one local government chairman here in Enugu State that is outstanding. Yeah, Enugu East local government.
But it's now time to worry about the body language of the elite. I always say this. These actions and these behaviors, they don't really represent goodwill coming from the elite. Do you think they care at this point how the people who are looking at them, do you think they care how citizens are perceiving their actions at this point?
Most of them don't really care because the system that brought them in, they don't owe their allegiance actually to the people, but to whichever godfather that puts them in that position. I mean, if I get a call and one godfather says, where are you? You're in Abuja. Come down to so and so place. You're going to be the MD of so. You're going to be whatever. It didn't come from the people. It came from someone. So my loyalty is to that person. And the person in return, Nigeria being what it is, with our questionable electoral processes, the person in turn knows where his own real allegiance is to. I mean, whoever has the cohesive powers of the security agencies and all that, they don't even really care. I'm sorry to say, but I don't think they really care much about your votes.
Okay, so speaking of allegiance, it brings in the Fubara Wike situation. Now, we have heard threats about impeachment. We have seen ultimatums for resignation. We've seen counterattacks coming from groups upon groups upon groups in Rivers State and across the country as well. Predict Fubara's situation. What do you think is most likely to happen at this point?
Well, both of them, you see, the sad thing about it is that the people of Rivers State are not really the problem. The people of Rivers State are not really. It's just about the ego of two people, especially the FCT minister. And in Sena climbs, even the contradictory statements he said when he was still governor that he was not going to, bother his successor. I mean, those things are all over internet. In Senate claims that's enough, but we say A and do B, and in this country it doesn't seem to matter to anybody. But I'll say it's a quarrel amongst two thieves, if you put it in quotes, because before Fubara himself knows within him that he couldn't have been governor without Wike.
Okay.
So you must have gotten. I wasn't there when they had their agreements, so they knew they knew what they discussed amongst themselves and whatever. And Wike is not. He doesn't play his he doesn't believe in half measures.
He's a see-it-through guy.
All or none. So if you cross him, we're going to see the end of it.
He's like a see-it-through guy. And everybody's worried that Fubara might actually get impeached.
Well, it's not straightforward like that.
Okay.
Because in the process of impeachment, the chief judge of the state will have to appoint a panel. Now, the question is, on whose side is the chief judge of the state? We are hearing the chief judge is now gone on, is it 1 year sabbatical or whatever? Excuse me. And it's only the governor that can even appoint an acting, and whatever you say, Fubara is still the governor. The speaker can't appoint the acting chief judge.
Okay.
So the governor has an ace in having the chief judge.
Okay.
Then the chief judge is going to appoint the 7-member panel, and it's going to be 7-member panel cannot say, okay, we've cleared the governor, then the House will say, okay, we've disagreed with the panel. It has to be based on the panel's recommendation. So it's not really a slam dunk that because they have 2/3 in the River State that the impeachment will just go through. Then the ethnic politics. The governor is Ijaw.
Okay.
This is the first time an Ijaw man
is getting it.
since the days of Emel Fodokilo in the Second Republic. It's always been Ikwere, practically Igbos, even though they deny their Igbo-ness. So it means a lot to the riverine people that their own son is governor now. And so he's not going to he's going to send the rock signal to militants. There will be threats of resumption of hostilities.
There has already been.
And with the oil pipelines and all that. And you know the effect such things had on the economy, at least during Yaradua's time. There was a time they brought down oil production to as low as 400,000 barrels.
I hear.
Even less than 400,000 barrels a day.
They came back. Forcing
the then Commander-in-Chief Yaradua to bring in the amnesty program. So it's most unfortunate. I think it's either the two of them. There were two thieves that know how they won the election in Rivers State.
They know how they won the election.
So they should go back. Go back to thieves in port. I'm using it figuratively. So they should go back to. They can always, politicians are neither here nor there. They can always settle amongst themselves. But Wike holds no punches. I think they will attempt an impeachment, but it's going to be mired with so much court cases and whatever that. I think Fubara's days are numbered, unfortunately.
Oh dear. I was hoping we didn't get there because
unfortunately. Because initially he might get judgments from the state high courts but when by the time he goes to appeal and Supreme Court, if you follow the pattern, we might hear another story.
The fact that the president has also advised the both of them to abide by the Supreme Court orders, it shows you that indeed Fubara might be standing on sinking sand. I don't know how that's going to play out, but we'll be here to watch out to see what happens. But isn't it weird and strange that if the FCT minister manages to, with his influence, disrupt the government in Rivers State, is he going to become governor of Rivers State?
No, it's about the political structure of Rivers State. You could see how vehemently they opposed the last local government elections in Rivers State, because if you understand the should I say, political architecture of Nigeria. The local government chairmen are the henchmen of any sitting governor. They are the ones that carry out whatever they want to do at the grassroots levels, both developmentally and even politically. So anybody that has a control on the local government chairman invariably has the structure of political structure of the party. And of course, you know, the local governments, there are also local governments funds involved, and politics involves money, and a combination of local government funds and state funds. So it's not really about the people, unfortunately. It's about the structure and soul of political structure of Rivers State. The FCT minister feels that that structure, they want to wrestle it for him, and it's not going to help.
Politics. The next headline that I'm going to read concerns you personally because that is your field. I'm going to read it, and then the phone lines are officially on, just in case you are now ready to join the conversation. There's a place you want to ask a question, analyze, summarize, whatever ideas you might have. Please do share them with us. Remember to keep your comments clean, simple, and civil. We don't want to break any rules while we're having these conversations. 0706-048-5853. You can also call 0915-570-8347. Now, I do know that Medicare in Nigeria is one of our biggest problems. Underfunded. I had one time during the elections in 2023 that hazard, you people get hazard allowance.
Yeah.
We did hear in 2023 that Nigerian doctors were earning 5,000 naira as a hazard allowance.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
All right. As beautiful as that sounds, fantastic news, right?
It's not fantastic.
I don't know what you want me to say because I'm trying to be as nice and as polite as I can.
How much do legislators earn as newspaper allowance?
Fantastic news. Because
Just opposite to the newspaper allowance of your
we should be very,
legislators.
very excited. Look at that. A whole 5,000 naira as hazard allowance
Some people 1.2 million to
for
read
people
newspapers
who are
every
most
month.
likely to get diseases, who are most likely to become injured. So many terrible things can happen to them in their line of work. And politicians who sit down to deliberate issues and affairs aim so much more you won't believe it. I'm telling you this because as at yesterday, Pfizer Nigeria shuts down commercial operations in Nigeria and lays off employees. You won't hear it one, they won't really let you hear it. But the truth is that it's happening. Right? Before you answer or before you make a comment, let's talk to our caller. Good morning to you.
Morning.
You're welcome.
This is Barrister Chukwamaka calling from Enugu.
You're welcome, Barrister.
Thank you. We have a guest in studio.
Yes, Dr. Trudy Emelo.
Good morning. Good morning.
It's good we have you today. At least it's going to be a very robust conversation.
Of course.
No, it won't only be on Mavis. Now, we start from the section 7 of the local government that creates the structure of the local government. You see, the intention of the makers of that constitution has been defeated. They structure it such that there can be a good governance within the grassroots. And it is an interface between the citizen and the government. But because, our governors are emperors in their respective states, and they get away with whatever thing they do with local government money. It's very unfortunate that even the anti-graft agency have not been able to nip it on the board. Because, if you see the amount of money that's going to local government and how it's being diverted for whatever reason, you will know that is what is hindering the progress and development of our people. Like when we saw best performance of the local government in Enugu was during the time of Sullivan. He did not touch the allocation of local government. Rather, what he did then was, if he cites state projects, he made local government to pay 40%, state pays 60%.
Okay.
And if you go through the entire local government of Enugu State, you will see, up to the moment, you can still see visible of such policy as they were able to provide democratic dividend to people. But what we're seeing is that the government are not even free as it is, even though they were elected. They don't assess that money as we were meant to believe. They are struggling with a lot of projects and budgets they made, what they projected to give to their people. And until conversation is shifted on this, it will continue to hinder our progress. That's, by the way. Mm-hmm. On the issue of Fubara and his godfather, you see, in the first instance, that local government issue that Supreme Court decided ought not to have even got to the Supreme Court in the first instance. I think it's supposed to be the highest it can go is either from tribunal to high court or from tribunal to appeal. It shouldn't have even gotten to the high court, to the Supreme Court. Even when Supreme Court make a pronouncement that the government should have their autonomy, you see, they're not enjoying that autonomy. So it's like Doc said, it's a political, is an organigram that governs the political structure in a state. And once they can pick and give those people be elected in the local government, they take direction from them. They no longer listen to people. They no longer come to give the solve what the people need. So on the that is the basis of that issue in Rivers State. For them to impeach Fubara is not going to be easy. Rather, what they are trying to use federal might to do that. You've seen the House of Assembly have written to State Security Service to investigate the chief judge to have had a certificate forgery. Can you imagine it for a judge, a lawyer, to raise from the level of a lawyer to a judge and the chief judge of a state? And they're telling us he has a forgery case.
Oh, you're following that, right?
Yes, and what they're trying to do now is to use federal might to get the chief judge. If you would not like to be messed up by whatever thing they are planning, let them agree on their side. Because if, as it stands today, if they ask him to set up a panel to investigate Fubara, if he sets it, and eventually the panel does not work in their favor, that is the end of impeachment as long as the lifespan of this assembly is concerned in Rivers State. So that's why they want to remove him and get somebody that will play to their own beat, which is not good for our democracy. And why government is doing this? We should not forget this is all about 2027, the preparing ground for 2027. And we saw what happened just last election. Tinubu benefited so much from what Wike did in Rivers State. And whatever Wike is doing in Rivers State is also to guarantee that vote that will come on that 2027 to support the president. So we will not see much from there other than how to thwart and make sure they get completely grip of Rivers State. It's very unfortunate that this is where Rivers people have found themselves. Another development, we call on media to shift attention on judiciary, because this should have been the only institution that will trash this mess out. But the policy of state captured by politicians is threatening this democracy on a very serious note, that they have to influence to a large extent the decision of the court. Now,
Barrister, you need to round off because we have
okay, let me round off. Their votes don't count again. The moment they go to court and say you are the winner, that's then. Some persons who do not even participate in primary election we are declared to be the winner at the end, and we'll take it like that because it's from Supreme Court. What can we do? This is a very bad trend.
Thank you, Barrister. Thank you so much for your insight. Doc, do you have something that you want to add?
He made a lot of valid points, but just as I said, even with the local government system as imperfect as it is now, we still have some council chairmen. I remember the late Opochengene during the time of Enugu South. Currently, we have a hard-working local government chairman. Outstanding Enugu East. He has already given scholarships That's Pastor Beloved. He's given scholarships. He has provided transformers. Things that really impact the grassroots. So it's not really, once you have the leadership capacity, even with the imperfect system you can still stand out. And just as I said, you can go to Enugu East, and the man in Enugu East is standing out for now.
Standing out.
Yeah.
All right, the conversation continues. You can join us 0706 048 5853. You can also call 0915 570 8347. Doc, I told you about Pfizer shutting down, and it's been said that over 7 million businesses have shut down in the past 2 years in Nigeria. And you might think this number is like, Imago, it's too much, but 7 million?
The impact, in fact, there's one country we should not dare play with now. You see, India. Because most of the generic or the cheaper drugs, cheaper imports, because Pfizer drugs are actually expensive. So most people are surviving on the Indian version of the generic drugs. But even at that, it's so bad now that you meet a retired teacher, retired headmaster that is a diabetic. They can't afford insulin, and it's not just having the insulin. You have to store the insulin under refrigerated conditions. And how many people have power? Even when they have power, how many people with this band A and band B and whatever? How many people can even afford? So the cost of living is astronomically, is affecting healthcare is adversely. Even there are many procedures that even the average person cannot afford. So, and most of these companies are closing down. It has basically to do with the foreign exchange, the value of the naira. They can't cope again. The naira has so much lost value that it doesn't make economic, and the business environment is no more favorable for them. So some of them now move over to other African countries or close shop entirely. It's unfortunate. So currently now, most of the life-saving anti-cancer drugs, the anti-diabetic, if you look at them, most of them made in India. Hardly see anything made in Nigeria these days.
Do we make anything?
Yeah, we do. We still have Emzor Pharmaceuticals. We still have a few local pharmaceutical companies. But when it comes to those, should I say, more drugs that need more sophisticated technology, like your anti-neoplastic agents, like drugs used for cancer.
Yes. Good morning to you. Wow.
Yeah. Good morning.
Good morning. You're welcome. Name and location, please.
Okay. My name is Angel.
You're welcome, Angel.
Yeah. Thank you. I'm calling from Enugu.
You're welcome.
Yeah. I also very appreciate what Doctor has said concerning situation on ground, both in River State and nationwide. What I want to say this time around is that Nigeria is out of the game for. And again is that the system of godfatherism and it's not a helping matter, because this system of godfatherism has messed up the whole system, in which that even the grassroots level cannot express their views. Imagine in a country that trade is cheap, they are threatened. So this system has now diminished too from the grassroots level and also from the opinion side. Now we now find out that the only panel of truth which we have is the judiciary. They have already quoted that place. So, and that place has been a den of truth. So we find out that the judiciary said they are going to be executed. These are the people at the parliament of the execution. They are now the ones they have been deciding of execution. So, in fact, we do not understand what is going on in this country. The only I can equally what the former governor used to say to the beginning, that only the state is in the hands of God. So now Nigeria is in the hands of God. So we are giving it God for everything. So thank you.
Thank you very much, Angel. Thank you. Okay. Thank you for the comic relief as well.
Well, Godfathers are not entirely bad. There are some good aspects of Godfather.
Oh my goodness. Oh no. I know where the doc is going to go with this. Are we going to continue?
No, I don't mean in the Nigerian context, even in the US. Ted Kennedy was the late Senator Ted Kennedy.
Yes.
Yeah, was Obama from Massachusetts, was Obama's godfather.
Massachusetts.
And he ensured that he was one that gave Obama the chance to read that speech during the Democratic Convention. And it was that speech Obama made that introduced Obama to the national audience in America, preparing him for to contest for making his face recognizable by the average American.
Is it the name that we call them that's a problem? Because we have mentors, people have mentors.
Yeah, mentor.
So but when we call somebody a godfather, there's a certain level of power.
Because we've abused it. There are also godfathers, political godfathers. I just give you an example. Ted Kennedy was Obama's godfather. But it doesn't mean that Obama will be making financial returns from his office. Is not in the Nigerian context. The godfather is just kind of political godfather, gives you opportunity, speaks on behalf of you, makes a few calls, please. That's my boy. No, please give him a chance.
Okay.
That's the context.
And you too can return the favor by making sub calls.
So that's
okay. But I was just thinking maybe the name is a little too much. Maybe we should call them something else instead of the godfather, because they're taking it literally here. They're using the word godfather. They are playing it, and saying
the one is worse than godfather because you don't cross them. You swear allegiance.
Okay, so I was going to also, because I'm still with the medical situation of Nigeria. I'm going to read you about the incident that happened in Ebonyi where a young boy lost his life. Right, I will tell you that, but let's talk to this caller. Good morning to you.
Hello, good morning, how are you doing?
Oh, no problems. You're welcome.
Yeah, good morning, guys in the studio. The master coming from Enugu.
Good morning.
The political, are you there?
Yes, we're with you.
Yeah, the political crisis in the state in a different dimension entirely. The two gladiators should tread with implicit caution. You said that the Chief Justice of the state is now on 1 year,
sabbatical.
Am I right?
Yes, 1 year. You can't wrap your head around it.
Now there is a serious lacuna in the judiciary. Then the state assembly said that they are on indefinite break. There's another problem there. Then you said that the pipelines are stressed on the pipelines right now. So you see, these are all index of political arise in River State. And they should have been the two people involved should have filed the imminent sort of emergency. It's looming. It's literally looming, just as it happened in Ekiti State some years back during the Obasanjo regime, where emergency was declared for 6 months. The intervention of the Senate under the leadership of distinguished the Ken Namadi to halt it for another 6 months. That would have been 1 year if not Ken Namadi. So they should tread with caution so that the state will not be plunged into anarchy and they consequently result into a sort of emergency. The two gladiators should have the interest of River State at heart at this moment to avert this. Thank you. God bless you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
My good man, for calling in the show this morning and for sounding that warning. Everybody should be careful the way we are treading. Look at that. I wanted to tell you that on Saturday, a child died in Ebonyi State because there wasn't a single bronchoscope. Did I say that right? Did I pronounce it right? Yeah. Bronchoscope in the entire state to find the granite that found its way to the child's lungs.
No, it's laryngoscope.
Okay, but the information we have is that what was required, because you know how public things happen publicly and people start to. So doctors on social media told us that what was required to save the boy was a bronchoscope. We don't know what the details were, but somehow the father of the child who this happened to is a staunch and strong supporter of the APC in Ebonyi State. And this happened, and the person who is lamenting this said that the governor of the state had been spending monies over $50,000 in procuring vehicles for certain members of his government in Ebonyi State, taking care of certain things, building an entire community for his family and stuff like that. But it is said that Ebonyi State would not afford to buy a $2,000 bronchoscope for their hospital. Like they couldn't find one hospital in Ebonyi State that could find the groundnut that was in this boy's lungs. And as I speak to you, the young man is dead. And it has a lot of us worried. We are worried because while we are praying, because people keep wondering why we pray so much, we're praying because we're hoping that we don't become ill, or we don't, need certain medical attention to the, you know what I'm saying? It costs so much to be sick these days. So we live in a country where our politicians are going to spend as much money as over $3 million purchasing personal things, purchasing, sorting their own personal problems, and our hospitals don't have the smallest of equipment. This is your field. Tell us what's going on and how we can come out of it.
The problem is that just like everything in Nigeria, to start with that incident you make, we don't have the details, so I can't be a judge. A judge of a case. I don't have the details, but I have a fair idea of what happens with emergency matters in medical practice in our climb. But the unfortunate thing is that we look at high-falutin things. I mean, if someone wants to build a hospital like our politicians, our governors, we look at the buildings, the POP, but those little things that make a hospital functional. For instance, you see ambulances.
Okay.
They are not really ambulances. Well, they are vehicles with cross on it. The things that will actually make a vehicle an ambulance are not there. I mean, you watch. There should be a defibrillator. When you watch movies, that's in the place on the heart and give it an electric
The same one we didn't have all over the country that we had to send President Buhari to London during the.
It should be.
Which one was that?
It should be in every ambulance. There should be an oxygen. There should be oxygen. Those are basic things, and there should be, those are basic things that should be in every ambulance. But we just get a van, put a stretcher, paint it out, and put siren.
So you're saying these vehicles that pass us when
most of them, in the strict sense of the word, if you look at the size of the ambulance you see in America, you can see how big it is because of the equipment it has. It is supposed to have.
Okay.
So we leave the little things. We just build a structure, paint it, and in a typical way, even you journalists are also guilty of it. When they're opening it, you call it ultra-modern. You start giving it fantastic names. The government just opened the state-of-the-art ultra-modern hospital at so place, and everybody's clapping. And as at the time it's being opened, there's no water supply, there's no electricity. And then before you now start talking of the basic things as simple as even gloves. Regular supply, you don't, you can't give the contract to maybe one political ally, or for instance, somebody that understands the supply chain dynamics to be supplying medical equipment, because those are things that there should never be a time that you don't have it in the store.
Okay.
But the instances, something as simple as drips, they tell you it's out of stock in the hospital.
Oh, we have heard.
In hospital pharmacy, at times needles, and and some of these emergencies are time dependent. But I keep giving the example of a snake bite. I'm sorry to say, we're just lucky that we don't really have those real venomous snakes like we have in northern Nigeria or in South Africa. For instance, let's say people say black mamba and all this cobra. It's not every snake that just the head goes up that is actually a cobra.
Okay.
But let's say you were bitten by a cobra.
Yes.
You have about 15-20 minutes to administer. We have about 15 or 20 minutes to administer an antivenom to you. Just think of the typical hospital in Nigeria, how long it will take to even get attention and whatever. And is the antivenom available, or that you tell the patient to go and buy. So you now see that we're just lucky. God has a way of balancing our inadequacies with the problems that face us. So, but that case in Ebonyi, I can't really comment much on it.
No. The father of the young man was the one who came out to social media to.
But I can tell you, at times, patient relatives say certain things out of ignorance. At times, they paint a picture that is at variance. In fact, I can tell you, most of the time you hear these things, the doctors even go the extra mile and they get blamed.
Is it so difficult? No, nobody is being blamed. The problem is said that there were that machine that was called the bronchoscope. They said no hospital had it in Ebonyi. That was the main conversation. What brought this conversation was how under-equipped our medical system. That was what the man came to cry about.
Yeah.
That the only reason why they couldn't find it was because he went everywhere and they didn't have, they said bronchoscope. And that was why the child didn't get help. And the child, is no more. And Nigerians are very concerned about this. But it's an indictment on our medical system.
It's an indictment on those supposed to equip our hospitals, not on the doctor. Although somehow it rubs off because most managers of healthcare, Minister of Health is usually a doctor and all that. But the problem, as I keep saying, is that we look at the highfalutin things. For instance, the basic healthcare. I mean, if I'm somewhere at Ubo-Odogu, what's the nearest health facility, the primary health facility I have? Now that primary health facility, something as simple as tetanus toxoid, they won't have it. You know why they won't have it? Because it's temperature dependent. It has to be stored you have to maintain what we call the cold chain. So from the time of manufacture to the time you give it to the patient. So that temperature, just as you see with most of these vaccines, you see them carrying it with coolers to maintain that temperature from the cold chain. So all these people that will just go to a nearby chemist and say, Kamba tetanus, they're just as good as you're just taking ordinary water.
Really?
Because that thing has to be stored at a specific temperature. It doesn't know whether your area has not had light for 2 weeks or 3 weeks.
In the same place, we are wondering if we deserve 24-hour electricity. Did you see that conversation?
So just like the same thing with some medications you take, like even your antivenom, your Rogam for all those injections, those drugs are temperature. So you see that our poor state of infrastructure encompasses all these things and affects healthcare. No matter how dedicated a doctor is or whatever, at times his hands are tied. So we really have to, when our government wants to, the government, especially even Enugu State government, is, you could see, if you go to Enugu State Teaching Hospital, you could see lots of infrastructural projects. You know that something that a game changer is there.
Okay. So from
my perspective,
yes, from your perspective, right? Okay, so I've known that you've been doing this for a long time. So I'm going to say, rate the work progress now from what it was 8 years ago.
Yeah, the difference is clear.
Oh, really?
You could see the projects, even if you go to the accident and emergency, lots of, even the manpower shortage, because there were lots of manpower. I'm just
because of the Japa syndrome. Did that really
it still affects everywhere, but
even now?
Yeah, it still affects everywhere, but at least at least in the situation at Esut Parkland is not that bad as it was. So there's lots of improvement in that aspect, but overall, that's nationally.
Yes.
The infrastructural deficits, as I just enumerated, with things like power supply, there are things that are beyond, just like those drugs. You just say Pfizer, closed shop.
Yes.
So we now make do with Indian variants of all those your popular. For instance, everybody. Let me give an example. Yeah, you can.
Okay.
Everybody, let me give an example of your popular Augmentin.
Okay, that one.
It's not about 30-something thousand.
Is it the Pfizer version or just the regular one?
The Augmentin, the Augmentin is the trade name.
Yes.
But any company, when you discover a drug, you have the what do you call it? patent rights for like 10 years, and after 10 years, every other company can continue making that.
I hear you.
And name it anything
they want.
They want. So, but most of the time, you know it by the first company that made it. That's why most people call amoxicillin, co-amoxiclav, and all those things, other variants of that augmentin. So, but it's that first company that made it that you remember. And most people start giving the drug the name. It's just a trade name. It's not the scientific name.
Okay. All right. You have 1 minute. Good morning to you.
Hello.
Good morning. You have 1 minute. Your name and location, please.
Good morning. My name is Dr. Chidi.
Oh, you're welcome.
From Enugu.
You're welcome.
I must commend you for what you are doing in your studio, and commend your guest, my friend, Dr. Mel, for his versatility.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Well, Dr. Mel, we have said a lot of things. I won't dare go into River State and all what. As it concerns us as medical doctors, yes, suffice to say that the governor is doing well, infrastructurally.
Yes.
You have not even dealt with the first topic of your hazard allowance, which was
he will be back this week to talk about it, because the young people, you know, the way Bayo Onanuga has asked career people to get side hustles. I'm wondering if you people are among the people who need to get side hustles in Nigeria as well.
We're all told to be jealous.
Okay, we don't have a lot of time. Thank you, Dr. Chidi. I wish you had called earlier, but the show has to end now. Thank you so much, sir, for joining us. Dr. Emelu, it's always a pleasure to have you around. Thank you so much. Do you have any last words for our listeners before we go?
Well, we should not lose hope on our country. It's going to get better. All those places you want to jack back is somebody that made it better. India, China, and all those places were worse than Nigeria. There was a time when I was in secondary school, we used to make fun of Brazil because of their debts and national debt and all that. And now look at Brazil today, even manufacturing aircrafts and all that. Embraer, this Embraer aircraft that Air Peace uses is made from Brazil.
I heard they are the best place you can get cosmetic
so
surgeries.
I think if we look inwards, everybody try to be good towards one another, think about the other person. I think Nigeria will get better. All this money.
In trillions. You heard it from the doc. Thank you so much for joining me this morning. Comes to you every weekday, Mondays through Fridays, 9 a.m. Please keep a date. My name is Mavis Atudume. This is High Voltage. Please, when you're out there today, like the doc said, try to be nice to the next person. That is the only way that we can have a society that can be good to all of us. Have a good morning.
Okay.